Everyone, it's Cheryl Millett, live at 5 with a few technical difficulties. I'm not quite sure what goes on with technology, but anyway, where from Zoom's standpoint for Facebook, the video ended, and that's all there is. So Zoom's kind of rolling and flying, but not Facebook. Anyway, we can keep trying, but I think I'm going to have to go to YouTube only so that I actually have it recorded. But we'll try. So welcome, live at 5. It's Cheryl Millett here. For the most part, it seems that I know a number of the people that are on here. I can't see who's on, so say hello. And in saying hello, you will know where the comments are and you'll be able to comment, ask questions, whether it's from a previous live, between today and the earlier lives, and anything that's kind of spoken about today. But for some of you that have been on, what I was just kind of trying to get to is focusing in the now. And quite often in the now, we are looking behind us, or we're looking forward and not focused in the now. So we are expecting or expectations, and we're holding on to beliefs that don't serve us anymore. And sometimes these beliefs have come for a very, very long time. They've just been there. Hello, sis. They've been there for so long. And this is time. It's time right now to actually shake it up a little bit, which is anything that we have believed. Now, believe is not knowing. So that's why I put the title is New World, Vision, and Knowledge. So knowledge isn't necessarily all the beliefs that we have chosen to believe because of the reasons we have chosen to believe. And now, 3 months into this event, or somewhere like that, a couple of months into this event, I have been doing a lot of reading, listening, watching, paying attention, observing, continuously taking the middle road when it comes to not taking sides, seeing where people are in their understanding of what are people tending to navigate towards, all of that. And so today, the best ever is kind of looking at it so that we can actually just step out of any place we've been and step into this very, very moment. So right now you can mentally kind of gather that, physically feel it, but this is the time to actually step into the now. For some, we're all over the map as far as where beliefs are according to this event. We're going to have people on one side really buying into the fear, all of the fear, doing the things they're told to do. And we're going to have on the other side the people who are becoming fed information or learning information for maybe the first time, maybe just kind of gathering a bunch of information, continuing from the last 4 years, let's say. I'll mention Q here. And so they're in kind of that position. It's about waking up. It's about waking up. What I want to kind of bring to today is the best ever is that we stay grounded and we've got the middle road. A middle road, a middle path, in between, but not between a rock and a hard place, so to speak. There's a lot of information, and not everybody is in the know if it's true or not. That's what I would say. From what I can gather, there is a bunch of truth out there, and I've been, I guess for me, lucky or fortunate to actually know people who have been participating in certain groups. I kind of don't want to say the name, but I'll just say it kind of politely, a group, a cult. And regardless of what they did, is what they did. My understanding is there's a lot of, okay, I'm on the phone. I'm doing a live right now. Yeah, thank you.
Mustang pictures.
Okay. That's just my lovely daughter. So, and the lovely dog who loves to bark when anybody's coming around. So really, when we think about what is possible, when we think about all of the movies, so now let's just put that into perspective. Throughout the years, from Disney to Hollywood, all of the various things we've been exposed to, um, those things, whether they're real or not, somewhat real or not, a little bit real or not, all real or not, is that we've taken in this information, and in some cases, we can be desensitized as to what is crazy. What is violence is probably one of those things I will kind of bring up here. There's a lot of violence or a lot of suggestive things that kind of need to happen, and I have brought up this book before, Sapiens, and I want to kind of just put it in a light here as I kind of go through this book and learn a variety of things, from economics to politics to different cultures, those kind of things. What I really wanted to say is a lot of what this current chapter is about capitalism. So capitalism is people are, if they want to get richer, they can get richer. If they've got the drive, the ideas, they have that freedom to do capitalism. Now, I'm going to try and find a couple of things in here to say but I want to preface this is to say, in just about anything you can find, and I'll just use these two words, good or bad. Okay, good or bad. From my understanding in here is, where's this one? Yes. There's a lot of information in here, and I really at times don't really agree with where it's going. In capitalism, they basically say, yes, these people can do that. And guess what? That's positive because you can have a job. You can have a job. And then they're supposed to reinvest the profits into improved quality. Whatever it is, they're supposed to invest the profits into the business, the people. That's what it says in here. But the interesting thing about it is, and so everybody's supposed to benefit. This is kind of a model here that it has here. They call it the pre-modern economy, where you didn't do that and you couldn't borrow money. So you didn't have the money. So they talk about it here in the banks, which I'll get to in a moment. But what I wanted to kind of bring up here is capitalism all that it's made out to be? Considering in here, he's agreeing with the author that it's an absolute fabulous thing, that they're going to work hard, that there is no time for festivities. There is, at the typical venture capitalist is going to rush from one business meeting to another. They're going to wear a suit, or in this case, he calls it a uniform. and it could be the most expensive uniform compared to somebody not being so expensive. So my note on this isn't just a form of slavery. It's really so inharmonious, so not in balance. Think about ever hearing where most people in their work, I'll call it work, job, are unhappy. They're unhappy. They go 9 to 5, and here in the Northern Hemisphere and probably others, by the time you get home, it's dark when it comes to winter. And you're concerned about your job. You have to work harder than usual because the competition that has come into play with capitalism, with the education, institutions, those kind of things come into play. I didn't really like where the modern economy is kind of going with that, but that's really what we have in a lot of ways. Maybe the small businesses, not so much, but maybe the larger businesses, yes, they're investing, and they're investing in having more, maybe more stores, um, bigger. Um, but then, then they want to have more profits, and then they kind of, yeah, get more things made cheaply and in cheaper places, which is kind of where we've gotten to by handing over our goods or manufacturing to other countries where they can make an egg look like an egg, chop it up, and it's actually not even real food. Those crazy things. The economics is anybody happy? Because to me, economics has to have a soft value of happiness or um, excitement for doing what you're doing. And it has to have the balance where you're gonna want to take off X number of weeks a year, so you kind of plan for it. You're not making so much money, the company shuts down, whatever it is, but you make the balance happen. I don't see any balance here, and it surely isn't. I can see why unions were created in some ways. That might have been for the employees. If you need to work, that's where they have you. If you need to work, because let's get into the other part, which they talked a lot about in here, which is debt. So the richer can leverage what they have and create and build on what they have. And they can have assets. But the small businesses, not so much. They can, but they're putting themselves in a sticky situation. Be it small businesses can be glommed up by large businesses. And quite frankly, I heard a long time ago that large businesses will actually wait for the small businesses to be successful and then they'll buy them. Why not? That makes the game of success that much sweeter when you don't have to go through the trials and see what people want. You wait for somebody else to build that need or want for whatever it is, and then you get into it. Very brilliant. But getting back to the debt, what they're saying in Sapiens, but I know it to be true, is that the banks are corporations. This isn't government. This isn't innocent scenarios. This is banks actually going, you have $1 million in your bank account, but they don't actually have $1 million in their bank account to give you. They're actually giving you $1 million in your bank account. And you can write a check to somebody, say, great. In this case, the person was building a bakery, and they write a check to somebody who is the contractor, and the contractor puts it into the bank. Needless to say, what the bank is trying to say is they're getting the $1 million from this person back, and as they make money at the bakery, and they will pay back interest. So they really hadn't any money. It's out of thin air. And they talk about it in here in this book, Sapiens. It's true. Money comes from thin air. It's strange as crazy to think that there's actually the cash sitting in the vault and all this money going around and transferring from bank account to whatever, that if everybody had to go in and get their money out, they'd be in trouble. And that's where they have been in trouble, where people need to get their money out and they don't have enough money in there to hand out as what they're supposed to have, whether they did bad investments or they actually gave money out and maybe people put it back in. But however, it's giving money out of thin air. And I think really, it's really nice to have that knowledge, just how things really do work. and how really things work. I could be here for days, for weeks, describing how many things can work. It would be a monster, it would be a web, it would be every piece of the puzzle becomes, an understanding. So we can always ask all of the questions. What are they teaching us? What are they exposing us to? What are they psychologically? What are they telling us that we need? What do they have us thinking that is the most important by the actions of certain people? Just think of, I call it the royal syndrome. So the royals, however role they have in the world, I don't even think they have to tell us how much they have money-wise, but needless to say, is people want that. People have grown to say, the 4-car garage and the 2 cars and the 2 kids, the Joneses. I don't even know where that name came from, but that is something that we kind of guide towards. What I want to kind of flip-flop today into the now is understand that that stuff doesn't go away. Doesn't go away. It's going to be all around us. The new world is more about how we look after ourselves, how we choose to see the world differently and operate in the world differently and choose certain things, and to know that we have choice and that our actions and the way we spend is going to speak volumes. Some of the things I wrote down, so things were just kind of pouring through me this morning, and I didn't really have a pen beside me, so I was trying to kind of come up with some of the things that would kind of come to mind here. But I hope everybody brought their compassion today. Definitely compassion is going to be necessary. Everything that I speak about, as well as be kind to others, is about being kind to ourselves as well. Be compassionate to others, but be compassionate to ourselves as well. This is invaluable so that we don't give away who we are as in fellow human beings on this planet Earth. We can call it equality in some ways, but there's always going to be differences there, and that's accepting of all of the differences. So what do we do about, certain things that are around us that we have an understanding exist but aren't for the betterment of humanity? One of the things to do is to focus on, as I said the other day, is to focus on ourselves, is to focus on what we have control over, not the big controlling others, controlling with our expectations, but to actually observe and participate in the things that we can participate in, that kind of thing, which is, well, if there is a petition, let's say, and the petition is for our freedom of choice, then we can sign the petition. I'd always say understand the petition, kind of read it, but definitely we want to participate, and participation, not just for the exercising as they have for everybody to kind of get moving, and there's that call to participation, but the action that we need to be able to make sense of our now. That's because we really do want to focus in the now. So in focusing on the now, I want to tell you there's a number of things in plain sight. In plain sight, maybe it's imagery, maybe it's, how would I say it? It could be imagery, symbols, people saying that you need this because of this, but always remember what's the good in it and what's the upside and downside. That's a better way to look at it. What's the upside to ID 2020? What's the downside of getting chips put into our body? What's the upside and what's the downside? And it's just as a way to balance out our thinking for anything that kind of comes our way. And I think that's going to be, I think some people may call it critical thinking, but whatever we want to call it, it is thinking. End of story. So what's the upside and what's the downside? Anything I kind of read, the downside that they talk about it is really more about the technology isn't, right, isn't, it just talks about technology not being where it needs to be. That's the only thing I see about the downside on some things. And on the upside, it's about, well, great, you can pay for things. You don't have to carry money with you. What I want to kind of express as one of the things to do, and I've got several things to do, is to keep cash, to welcome some cash, to think of cash is your building your immune system, So whether it's a lot of cash, a little cash, you're not talking about saving it in the mattress, but just continue to work with cash, pay for things in cash. I think that is an important piece here, is that people are still using cash. People still like using cash. People still want to use cash. And we continue to use cash for now, just as an option, because some people know and read that China has a no cash system right now, and they can go into your account. If you jaywalk, they can go into your account and take the money out instantly. So you have no freedoms that way, and we want to maintain freedom. That's freedom, balance, harmony, freedom, balance. Those are the kind of things that we're kind of talking here. And as much as we may not all understand, some more than others, let's focusing on these things as important in the now, and we'll better understand them as we have time permitting, as things go by. But hi, Angel. So that's kind of what we want to do there. So things in plain sight absolutely are happening, and we want to go for peace for sure. Calm, da, 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 da. So one of the things that doesn't make sense to me is the fear that it's putting in. Any fear that comes at us is not necessary, to tell you the truth. It's absolutely not humane. It's not necessary. The fears, if you think of any fear, it's not necessary. You could do it in a different way. And sometimes we have to yell out, or we have to speak out just to get a person's attention. But we don't necessarily have to do it out of fear. And a lot of fears come in because we already have fears within us. That's where it comes out. Fears come in, or communication, or headlines, or all of those different things kind of come in. They pop in, and all of a sudden, because we already have fears within us, we can get into a fearful position and take action in a fearful way. Not good for our health. But almost anything that you see, I can read crazy headlines, and I'm not going to jump into fear. I'm going to look at the headline. I'm going to learn what it's about, and take the thinking and see, and maybe even get different sources. Maybe not so much the mainstream media, because of who owns the mainstream media. So one of the things about what we're exposed to more and more is in some ways desensitizing us for when certain things happen. It's almost like you skip from the Hollywood drama to the world drama, going, yeah, I mean, I'm familiar with this. Of course, there's police rushing or this or sirens or whatever. We get so desensitized to it that we don't even ask questions sometimes. We just get out of the way. And or we don't yeah, we get out of the way. We don't react. We don't have some sort of a critical reaction in thinking to certain things, and we lose ourselves. And one of the things with some of that is the authoritative figures, authoritative. And I've already seen this a couple times where people are given authority, or they're in a position, they're in fear, and that absolutely comes out. And you can see it by their expression, their tone, everything. They want you to do what they want you to do, even if it doesn't interfere with safety. And I just heard from the UK, was it UK? Somebody from UK. They're actually going to be hiring people to go out and I don't know if you want to call it narking or telling on or something like that, as to when people aren't doing what they're supposed to do, something like that. So authority is authority, and just to be able to see it for what it is and have compassion that if people like authority, if they like to gain power, they're going to find themselves wanting to do those positions, to push around people, to have that kind of authority. And that might not come from a good place, of course, but it comes from a place where they still don't understand. They still don't understand. So this is where kindness and compassion comes in for ourselves. We don't want to get into a mess, that kind of thing. But let's go through a few things. First and foremost, absolutely, we want to maintain our freedoms. That is so important here, is to maintain your freedom. Freedom is to choose. That is so important here. I can't stress it enough. We have opportunities to learn, to participate in what we want or not want. Let's do it. Let's participate, because this is, I don't know where they did the poll for the vaccine, saying that 6 out of 10 people are siding with mandatory vaccines. But that's what they were saying on the radio, that I guess you can call 6 out of 10 is the majority. I wasn't part of that poll, so I don't know where they poll. Who are they polling? But at times we just have to pay attention there. The other thing is, I think, which is probably very, very important here, is to support one another, to stay connected. And that's why I'm appreciative of all the videos and the little videos and the bigger videos, the 3 hours. Very appreciative. There's seemingly to be some underlying similarities, but in talking to people that are in the know, let's say, they will say they got most of it right, but some of it not entirely. And of course, there's more information. The idea in better understanding the bigger picture is understanding the bigger picture and for the truths. And I think that anybody who's doing a lot of research, and it's just research and not coming from somebody who knows, may stumble upon this or that, but might not be entirely correct. So this is where we stay in the middle. We stay grounded in a place of, we don't know it's true, we don't know if all is true, some of it's true, but we don't need to use words like liars and lies and things like that. We get it wrong. I mean, if you had to call people a liar and they're in gambling, I'm going to win this time. This is it. I'm going to win. And, and they play and they don't, and they play and they don't. I mean, you could call that person a liar, pants on fire, for probably a lot of times, more than the other side. So the idea is, I wouldn't go into the place of right or wrong. It's just, this is information, this is knowledge. The ideas around things that are happening is best to be known. So capitalism has its upsides and its downsides, as I expressed earlier. Democracy, the same thing. It's almost a word. Is it actually happening? So the upsides and the downsides of many things exist. So with that, I want to absolutely say that we should support and connect and share. Some people may not be up to watching and listening, so we've got to be very careful, I think, in who we are sharing things with. They may not be ready for it. They might have certain beliefs that are completely yeah, they're just not over here. They're just not wanting to understand both sides. That's where I will say is when we're in the middle, we're wanting to understand both sides. And so supporting and connecting and being there for each other, being able to, in some cases, there may be a little bit of venting, but sharing our feelings, those kind of things are important. And certainly there's that going on. I don't mind it one bit at all when people have connected with me. But definitely with supporting and connecting is to maintain your individualism. Okay. I know we're kind of connected. We think of energy, everything is energy, and there's just kind of connected. But in some ways, what I've experienced is staying connected with the bigger picture, yes. And but there's definitely people that have come into our lives, and I've had some crazy scenarios, and this is the upside and the downside. It's great to feel connected, great to be supported, but it's kind of discerning where their head is at or where they're kind of going with certain things. I don't mind mentioning this name because I did have a full-on experience with it to actually speak to it. And I did get up a follow-up call, and I did express exactly what I'm going to say to you now anyway. And that is somebody who wasn't impeccable with their word and said, all I want, Cheryl, is your opinion. So come and join us for this meeting. It was Landmark. And I got this massive, how can I say it, almost like a shooting energy that wasn't good. And I just went, whoa, okay. I didn't say anything. I just felt it and go, what does that mean? When he was saying that and that happened, was okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to check it out. I didn't want to. I call it tapped. I was not tapped to go to a landmark meeting to do any of that. I appreciate the upside where people felt good about themselves. They felt good that they were supported and they were able to share and all the goodness that they got out of it. Great. It's just not for me. But when I was at the meeting in this particular, so I'm thinking, we feel supported, but how are we being supported? So Nexum was this thing that got busted. And, again, people want to feel like they're supported and part of something. And with Landmark, I could feel that they were just wanting to get you to join, get you to feel good about what they have there. Even though I know it was kind of one of those meetings where you just you get to hear everybody's positive story. Great, I'm glad, I'm appreciative of all this and the upsides. But there's just this sucking in that kind of happened. And I could almost sure that this person did NLP because I'd been to a couple of things where they had mentioned NLP and that they were and I'm not saying NLP is all bad, but in my experience, they're trying to draw you in, trying to get you to make a decision or do something, whatever they decide you want to do, sign up for a course. So I just sat there observing what it is that they were saying, just casually, just there, not nodding my head, not putting up my hand, not answering their questions in any which way. And I could see them looking at me in disbelief. Like, who is this person? Everybody else is agreeing with me, but this person isn't. I just stayed with that and observed and didn't fall into any place other than this person wasn't on the up and up with me. And I really got a big dose of that when they called to follow up with me and said, I'll hold you in a place of this energy that you're going to join one of these days. I'm going to hold you in this space, and I just went, wow. Okay, let's just put that back at you. Let's just like, whew. So I had to kind of reverse that, and almost like putting up a mirror and right back at you for what you're doing to people. And then when they called me, I just gave them everything that I thought about it. And they said, "Oh, no, we don't teach them to do that." I'm going, "Well, then you don't teach them not to do it. So why don't you add that into your criteria or your training or whatever it is, because that's an important thing." But back to support and connect. So supporting, connecting is very, very, very important. But to maintain your own personal observer, to not lose yourself, um, that kind of thing is very, very, very valuable. So as much as we want to feel connected, that love, that kindness, all the wonderful things you can think about that feels good, yes, but not on the other side where you feel like you're being drawn in and that you're going to do everything that everybody else is doing. There's just kind of there, and you'll know it. You'll know it. But so Brenda, I had the same reaction to Landmark when I had one of their intro sessions. A friend invited me to, and she did give me a heads up. But wow, yeah, it's an experience. I have to say, it was an experience. I would have not have gone if I had not had that, whatever it was, that blow to, I would say, my heart chakra or something. It was just, I would not have gone. But I said, you know what? I've done my work. You can't make me do anything I don't want to do. Let's go and have the experience. And that was kind of crazy. So when you feel those kind of things or be tuned into it, then let that guide you more than the hundred of testimonials of positive kind of feeling. Let your inner guide, your gut, ever guide you, as opposed to anything else that's kind of there. If it's not right for you, think about it. Take time to think about it. But I think that's that. The third thing I want to mention is debt and being debt free. I do have a finance background, and when I talk about finance, or I talk about investing, or I talk about risk management, because I was 20 years in finance and risk management. My head works left and right brain my whole life. So the idea is debt is it, what is it? Is it because you want to have all of these things? It says it in the book that the positive thing for the capitalists, that are out there, is that people want all this stuff that's meaningless. That anyway, so it kind of says it right there in the book. But the idea is, yes, I mean, it's kind of stepping back from that part of our being and living over the years, thinking we didn't have enough, we didn't know enough, it wasn't enough, and we've gotten into this, how would I call it, spinning wheel, rat race of believing that we have to have the best. And what is the best? And that's from fashion to the kind of jobs that we have, to the type of cars that we have, the type of places that we live in, the things, the stuff, all those kind of things. But you can see that crumbling with a lot of people telling me they left a multi-million-dollar business and they bought a hobby farm and now they're selling lamb and sheep's milk. And you can see it with people with this whole tiny house movement. You can see it with people, the big word declutter, I'm decluttering. I'm that you can see it with how fashion is not so much one thing anymore. It's a whole combinations of things. And you can see it with the comfort that people are embracing, from their shoes to the type of clothes that they're wearing. It's not about having the sore feet at the end of the day, or the too tight waist, or Yeah, all of those things. So we had all this kind of combination happening at once. But that, I think, the debt free and living within your means is an important thing. It doesn't mean you don't make investments, but investments that are within your means that seem very reasonable because due to the volatility of the world, of the economics, of the stock market, which to me, the stock market, don't get me going on the stock market. Uh, I feel for the companies who put their businesses on there. They're raising money, but how often do they have to raise money? And then you've got so many stocks, and then you've got to get more stock, raise money, and then you've got to loot the stock, and then you have people going, I'm just going to get rich quick. And it's the richer that get quick. You can't determine what's going on in the market, not even in the agricultural market. So that's what I was into. We used to have, I'll tell you a bit of a story. We had 3 consultants. Let's just say the best consultants in the world, North America. And they consulted on, well, what is the price of wheat going to be in 1 year? So different agricultural commodities. And with this one time, we'd spend a whole day. They'd come in, and they came at different times. They didn't get to meet each other. Of course, they knew they were all there. And we'd have a couple of hours with each and every one of them. 1, to see their presentation and where the market was going. 2, to ask all the questions that we want. And you pay thousands of dollars for these consultants to tell you what they believe, not what they know, is going to happen for the reasons they know. So I remember this one particular year, of the 3 consultants, you'd have one person going, it's going to go way up to here. You had another consultant goes, oh, it's going to drop way down to here. And you have another person who talks about it not much, not moving much. So we had these 3 things, we're sitting. I remember sitting afterwards and just kind of, okay, so if if nobody can agree, those guys, we know it's going to move one way. It's got to move one way, but which way is it going to move? And I have to laugh about. And then there's the downside stock markets. They have taken people's money, and not a good thing. And talking to bank managers, they can't believe just how many people come in and cry because they've lost a lot of money. So that's definitely not a happy thing, gambling. That's why I call stock market sometimes gambling. But when we think of money, and we think of debt-free, and we think of investing, and we think of all these pieces of finances, it really is to understand, first and foremost, we don't know what's going to happen with the market. We just do not know. We don't, real estate market, who predicted this event? Or maybe some people did. Maybe some people knew it was going to happen. But the idea is the average person isn't really going to have an idea. You're taking your chances. So understand that sometimes what we're doing, we are taking our chances, and we need to kind of think about it in a way that, can we afford it? So there's certain things. And of course, you hear of people getting too big, and then things kind of get out of hand. It happened to Loblaws too, as well, with distribution. It just gets so big, and you have so many people involved, and people are making their decisions, and not everybody knows what's happening. So it's crazy. So debt-free, that would be the 3rd thing I would say. We talked about education a little bit, and knowledge. I've been kind of mentioning it here. The idea is to what I want to kind of really say around education is education has its limits. Okay, upside, downside, but let's say limits. And what I'd learned from a person, I can't remember who it was, but I remember it was about 25 years ago. And this person had said, does it make sense, Cheryl, that you actually have a teacher who's teaching you a subject they've never, ever done in their life? And then we kind of tied it into the chemistry that I was taking at the time. And funny enough, the chemistry teacher was actually a chemist in a lab for a number of years, and then came in and was teaching chemistry. And I remember this person having this conversation with this person about knowing who's teaching you and what their understanding is of that subject. It was one thing. So when I took meditation, it was a person who had gone over to Tibet for 5 years and learned about meditation. And so I was like, wow, that you've learned not from reading all these different books, but how, what their experience was. And even to understand, this person had 5 years over there. 10 other people could 5 years over there and have different experiences. So we're open to the different experiences that these different people had. But it's a little bit different than people coming in and just regurgitating the information in books. I can't tell you how many times I've caught people, not caught people, but I have my questions, as you can see, asking the question, and they don't know how to answer it. It's not in the book. They've never learned it. Of course, they haven't experienced it. So questions is what I want to kind of come into for this one, is to ask questions. There is no bad questions, but it certainly can come across as bad when somebody who's supposed to be the expert or authority in it, or a professor in it, or whatever it is, and they don't have the answer. It was no different than this COVID with this person who was asking her doctor about, well, do I still have it? You say 2 weeks. Is that how long? What if I still have it? And so it was back and forth and questions. And the doctor said, I don't know. We don't know. I don't know. They never said. So there's all these questions this person had, but the doctor couldn't answer it. And so that just told her, well, can I get the test? And so she kind of moved into an action where she was able to, in this case, explore that she was still testing positive. But then we learned that 50% of the positives are incorrect. So there's all the information we can have about this, and then still really kind of not know. But education and learning can be different. Knowledge and education can be two different things, because somebody has to decide what your education is going to be. They have to decide. And sometimes what I will say is they stay with the safe, or they stay with what they've been told to teach you. So I'll say that again. They stay with what is safe. Don't want to, just in case that isn't really, and also stay with what they're told. And then the people who learn it stay with what they're told and learn. So unless they hear it from the school, this is really true. Unless they hear it from the school, unless it's in their book, they have a hard time buying into it. It's almost like you just buy the book. You know that saying, buy the book, just go buy the book, where we have to kind of feel what it is that is the right thing for us. Buy the book means there's one thing for everybody. There's only one thing for everybody. Everybody has to do it the same way. Everybody has to believe this is all there is to chemistry, or this is all there is to yoga or something. And when, in fact, even yoga, or I'm trying to think of different levels, even the Waidan that I'm teaching, is at first you're learning the moves. And even Waidan, yoga, Pilates, you're learning the moves. You're getting familiar with the moves. You maybe know the names of the moves. But then second to that, as you progress into doing it more and more, you can work on the technique. You can work on the proper posture to get the best, the energy flow or something like that, or the strength, or not to hurt yourself. So the technique. And then over time, you tend to get a sense for, well, what is really the meaning behind doing this, perhaps? And there's another kind of expansion on that. And I think this is where I get it when I think of the Buddhist teaching or Jesus's teaching is, did really people get it? Did they only go so far and then kind of lose the meaning and what they were really telling them? Because some of that has to do with things on a pedestal, which is what I hear when I read some things is, no, 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 we're all in this together. Nobody is better than anybody else. The pedestal thing is a way for us to feel that somebody knows better than ourselves. And we have we're all teachers. We're all teachers in different ways, and we're all students for sure. So the idea is that when we think of knowledge, it's a knowing, it's an experience, it's still being open to add to that. It's going with your gut. I remember my teacher saying, if somebody says guru, run, run for your life. Now I know he was being dramatic, but I got the feel and the point that boy, I want to say I have seen ego come out of yogis. I have seen altered egos or negative egos, whatever we want to call. I've seen it come out of monks as well. I've seen it come out as like, and I'm not sure if the people don't kind of put them there, to tell you the truth. The people that are crowding around certain people, give me your autograph, give me your autograph. And when I see that kind of happening, I can see people losing themselves to the fame, to the money, to how they dress, to how they come across, to how they, whether it's the kind of the, they speak with confidence, they kind of all of that. And so you have this, this person over here that may have been more grounded and comfortable with what they're doing, but then you have all these people coming over here just like going, whoa, wow, you know so much, and all of that stuff. So I just kind of want to understand that the institutions that are set up, the way some people think it is better, or it's almost like it's not really the stairway to harmony and balance and love and all that. It's almost like there's a how can I say it? A step ladder to the side of the stairway of growth and raising your vibration, all of that. Is you have this little ladder over here that kind of, if you kind of get sidetracked and go over to the ladder, you can kind of climb up the ladder and start to look down at people. You can start to see, and some people kind of, maybe they kind of push you up there. Some people saying, hey, you can be great. You can, you can sell 1 million books, or you've got this great thing and you're going to be a millionaire. And so people, not just the populace, can and actually get people feeling like that is where you want to be, and the promises of things and all of that. Anyway, that's that. So the idea would be not to lose ourselves in our our space, our life, our wherever we are, and that's television. We can lose ourselves. How many people watch I don't even know, the Oscars or the Globes or the Junos or anything like that? Listen, I think it's amazing the people participate in their passion and what they love and get a sense of confidence from it. And I mean, athletes are also another group of people. I think it's great that I'm hearing more and more about the Olympics getting caught on their money, their betting part of it, and doing what they're doing. To the athletes realizing that it's not healthy to be so competitive, and it's almost like you could, in a boxing match, you just you gotta think that you hate this person, and you gotta gonna punch the shit out of this person, right? So you gotta hate this person. It's almost like, and this is all kind of building up in people when it's really not our nature by any means, by any means. So there's kind of that that movement to do those kind of things. And so I kind of was not sort of boycotting Olympics. I really appreciate that people get to be the best that they can be and they have this whole experience around it. But then to learn some of the experience, they get really sad, really down, really depressed, whatever, if they don't. And of course, somebody gets the gold, but everybody else doesn't get the gold, so there's kind of that under appreciation for competitiveness, but why, do it, have the fair play and the fun and all of that. But as we can see through sports, which has come out more and more, fair play kind of went out the back door with the doping, blood doping and steroids and stuff like that, right? So anyway, we've got all those things that we're set up to do. And there's these things that absolutely exist all around us that exist for the reason there. So we're going to kind of step back and we're going to be who we want to be, the best that we want to be. And we're going to use the knowingness, the gut, and have an understanding of what's kind of out here that's come our way that may have been part of us that we can learn to kind of let go of that. And that was kind of a big area there. And one of the things that I know I'm going to bring back, because it's been a couple of years, is the ABC, Awakening Book Club, which is bringing in a group of books that have a solid, grounded way of exposing people to a growth that is not based on everybody just do this and this will happen. So there's growth, but it's not like the personal growth business kind of thing that's out there. It's also the level of awareness that you have at this point with this book, and then there's that, and then you have discussions and that. So teachers are going to come in many different ways. I'm just going to bring back the Awakening Book Club. I'm probably going to do it online now, just because now I've been starting to do that. That way maybe more people will come, and guess what? You don't have to travel. You can participate in our jammies and have a gallery and just have certain people, because it's the sharing. So I really like that part of this event. The other thing, so I talked about capitalism and democracy for sure, the upsides, the downsides, and and to very much tap into how you're feeling about any different things. I mean, definitely there have been times where I've had strong taps to do things, and this is just kind of a fun thing to say, but the fun thing that I got a tap and I knew right off the bat I needed was my Vitamixer. I picked up the book, browsed through it, maybe not even a minute, got, I got to get that, just going to do that. And I heard other people had that kind of experience, although one of my neighbors almost got in a divorce over it because several $100s later. But the idea is those are kind of the things. I call it taps. You may have a different word for it. But there's an important piece that I want to mention here to the end that's important for the listening to your gut, the healthy aspect about it too as well. And that gets into kind of like the mind and body connection, and that is, so let me just kind of take a peek through my notes here, because I had a couple of things. I'm not going in through so many things around things that are happening out there. I think it's best that we step into the now and focus on what we can do, and not get so crazy over. Some of you absolutely probably know a million things. Some of these documentaries, some of these names, some of the things that have been happening for whoever knows, knows however long, who knows. That's crazy things. So that's all kind of garbage. It's all kind of certain notes of certain things, but forget that. Okay, so the last thing I want to kind of bring up here is around, so we're talking about the gut, we talk about things that are kind of around us, they're just not going to shift overnight. and that we do want to maintain our freedoms. Absolutely want to maintain our freedoms without question. Yeah, I found it so highly manipulative and completely missing anything to do with spirit, which made zero sense to me. It's probably about landmark again, but there's so many things personal growth wise. I have felt that landmark is supposed to be personal growth. So some sort of this personal growth stuff sometimes feels very much like that. And again, I don't want to put NLP in the a bucket of where it's always just like that. I've heard very positive things that coaches are using it, but it sounds like it has a very, you know, downside to it or scary thing. And I'll just share one more story on that before I'm going to get into the most positive thing that we can absolutely talk about for hours and hours, is that I remember a person who was doing certain things for people, and he got into hypnosis, and I guess that's kind of was the focus. And I was just kind of paying attention to him, and I could see all the other doctors, practitioners, kind of just being, I don't want to say sucked in, that's not a nice word, as this person being a magnet. So it's like this attraction that just seemed to get stronger and stronger as he talked more about the things that he was able to do. But some of the things he was saying, I understood, but I don't think they understood. So metaphysically, I understood what he was saying. And they were just so enamored with him. I just watched this unfolding. And that was of interest. That was just interesting. I say it was a little bit, it was still of interest, you know, observing how people can just get more and more enamored with certain things. And then just kind of, it's almost like, so anyway, what happened was they brought this person and they asked me, do you want to come? He wants to do a demo. And I'm not going to go into too much of the details, but this demo was almost like a entity removal thing. And I've said, well, I kind of don't want to, because I don't think people are understanding what this is, and, you know, the shifting of energies and it's just, they're not in a place to understand their own energy and to protect themselves. So I felt like I could go. I wanted to go on one hand to assist with the energy in the room, and also to observe this interesting unfolding, you know, part two. And this person did something in front of me with their hands, and then proceeded to tell me, now you are more confident. And I looked at it, and in my head, I'm going, you gotta be joking. Really? I said, you know, I was just observing you, buddy. I'm not taking in what you're sending me. So I thought it was, so then I learned he was an NLP expert or whatever, teacher, and all over the world. And then when I went onto his website to explore more, that he was actually teaching NLP to people who do hypnosis. And what he was telling these practitioners, just to kind of preface a little bit, is I can give you things to do so that your clients will come back time and time and time again, and they won't even know it. And I'm going, okay, this is ridiculous. I'm not saying anything, because all the doctors and practitioners, but mostly doctors, were around me going, oh, yeah, I like that. So I didn't, you know, I just didn't really say anything, but I was really trying to get a sense and a feel for who this person was. When I said something to one of the people that were there, it wasn't too well received. I could tell just from, how can I say it, the waters, you know, dipping the things that I was saying were just kind of touching the water a little bit, just to see how it would be well received. And they were already so enamored with this person. So that's kind of a little, you know, little example, but Nexum, and you're going to hear all these various things that are going to come out sooner or later, because more and more awareness is about it. But let's go into the idea of what we can absolutely follow. And besides the other things that I mentioned, is the mind-body connection here, which is our imagination. So our our thoughts, our imagination. So imagination really can, there's an upside and a downside, because if you're imagining things, I'm not going to get into it because it can get dark a little bit, but imagining, so here was what we want to focus on, is actually imagining, and continues to imagine what it is that we do want in the world. What do we want to see in the world? Is it peace? Is it safe children? Is it blue skies? Is it pure water? Is it free will? Is it whatever it is? It can be very, very simple like that. I've shared what I say. I usually say blue skies. I will say colorful cars, only because everything kind of looks dull in the wintertime here. And having been to Ireland, they put a lot of color into their houses, which is great. But colorful cars, safe children, and healthy, happy people, however that needs to come about. What does that look like? So I can kind of get a feel and sense and see it, just within a quick imagination. Pure water or clean air, and clean food. And sometimes I kind of added a different thing in every once in a while. But that's the kind of imagination, if we're thinking about what we want to move towards, the next now, the next now, that's probably the easiest way to say it, the next now, and the next now. And so every moment is a now. What is it that you want in the now, the next now? And imagination means thinking about what you do want. Of course, it doesn't harm anybody. Of course, there's probably other people that would welcome it as well. The idea is to use as many senses as possible. So imagination, you can close your eyes and say it. You can actually see it in your imagination without even closing your eyes. You can, sometimes when I see a few cars driving by, now that I've been doing this for a year or so, and now I can see these cars, blues and greens and oranges. I'm noticing them because I'm imagining it, and then I take in the color of the car as the part that the imagination is real, it's there. Sometimes I'll even touch it, but I don't smell it. No, I don't smell the car, but all the senses as much as possible here and there. When I go collect the spring water, I smell the spring water. I taste the spring water. I can see it. I can see the reflections in the spring water, if you've ever seen some of my pictures. So as much as we can use our senses into what we appreciate and what we can imagine to want, or we do have it in the now, it's there, it's present, all of that, that is probably the thing that's going to rock the world by far. And it's the feeling part that comes with that you're looking for. That's the sweet spot, that you feel light, you feel positive, you feel charged, you feel energized. It makes you want to get up in the morning. It makes you want to imagine with a smile on your face. It makes you giddy, whatever it is, so there's that kind of feeling that you want. And that's the idea. But you can see it, any situation, when we brought into a fear scenario, it's not the good feeling anymore. It's the other side of the feeling. So if there's a range of vibrations, as if there's a range of energies, higher vibration, raising the vibration, the stuff down here that doesn't serve us, the fears, the sads, the depressions, the anger, all of those. Now, Power versus Force is an interesting book. It talks about it, but it also gives it numbers from the testing. And so that I liked reading that book after somebody told me about that part, because I do like the analytical part of it. It almost gives some credence to the concrete way. There's actually numbers to the different vibrations. So very interesting book, and it goes beyond into consciousness and things like that. Very good book if you haven't read it and that is actually of interest to you, then you may find it very interesting for that. Sometimes we can learn things quite quickly. We don't have to read a whole book, Yeah, it would be my desire to do book reviews, but at times some of the books have to be looked at and read and absorbed and taken in, and sometimes it repeats things in a way that helps us that repeating kind of helps I don't know if awaken to the information, whereas a book review would just kind of just put it out there. And what do people usually do even when they read books? They read it for the sake of reading it, and then it gets put to the side. Maybe they'll do a little bit of it. Maybe they'll think about it for a little while. Maybe they'll be blabbing about it for a while, and then kind of just, here's the next book, right? But certain books, especially in the Awakening Book Club, it is about taking the information in there and processing it. That's probably the word I was thinking about, processing it. But let's think about this imagination. Let's not just think about it, that's actually applied in our day-to-day life of what we're looking to bring to the world. So it's not about the mansion per se. It's not about, I want to get this kind of job and it's got to be here. And it's not about that. It's about really more about, well, what does that give you? Does that give you happiness? It's more about the feelings, the lighter side of things, the thing that's kind of works for the whole, works for humanity in itself, harmoniously balanced. You may ask for balance, and whatever that balance is, it could be different for different people. And that's the fun thing about imagining is it to be unfolding before your eyes, and then just kind of understand that that's how it works, the mind-body connection and the imagination and the higher self and all of that. Just kind of that. So that's the blue skies and the colorful cars I just kind of been adding them on for the few years, time after time as things come in my awareness. But it just is, that's just is how it works. It's just how it's worked. Manifesting is kind of falls into that. And that's a whole other workshop I've done with groups of people, because everybody can imagine, everybody can absolutely manifest. But there's more to it than just saying it. There's more to it than watching The Secret. There's more to it than sometimes some of the books and all of that kind of stuff. So I'm going to end it on that. I don't know if there's any comments, any feedback. It's one of those things. How long have we been? Just over an hour. I know there was a lot here today, and I do thank Carla and Jill for saying hello, and Brenda for commenting. I think it's important that we kind of understand how we're in this together, and it happens, happens to each other, right? These things happen, and we can have that similar experiences. So that's it for now. I'm going to see you Monday live at 5. I have my daughter to the side here giving me some hand signals. She probably wants me for something, but she doesn't want to say it while we're live. Anyway, all the fun in it. So I'm going to wish everybody a wonderful evening. Happy imagining, happy imagining. Use that. That's a tool. It doesn't matter if you do it perfectly, you don't, or you have questions about it. Just start somewhere. And I will put mine down below. That's what I will do, just to kind of have a little bit of a reference. And anybody can have the same things. Anybody can have the same ones. That's all, not all mine. But anyway, yeah, always nice to see everybody on here. And yep, we'll see you, Carla, tonight at Zoom. And bye, everyone. And my daughter's staring me down now. Anyway, take care, everyone. Monday live at 5 for sure. I can't see any reason to come on tomorrow. So we will see you then. Take care and all the best. Again, compassion, kind, and that's for yourself as well. So bye, everyone. Take care.